Hey guys, welcome back to the homestead. I want to give you guys a quick little update on what's been going on around the homestead. Now it's been really wet and quite chilly here, so there's not much we can do outside, even though I want to get my garden prepped because my seedlings are doing well. I also have a surprise I want to show you guys after, so let's check it out. Alright, so my seedling setup is probably not as pretty as yours, but it's doing the trick. So here I have some of my pepper. These are my beefsteak tomatoes. I'm just seeing them starting to come up now. A couple of pots of St. John wort. I haven't really seen much germination from them yet, but we'll see. I also have some of my brassicas here. I have broccoli and cabbage. So I have April green cabbage coming up here, and then I have some broccoli at the back. And then here, over here, I have some of my peppers, bell peppers. And down here we have some eggplants. Germination is okay on the eggplant, but the peppers are taking a little bit longer. Normally do take a little bit longer because they're such a warm, loving plant. But just keep it well watered, and it should all work out for you. Back here, this is where I planted the sweet potato slips. I put them in this pot here just to keep them growing because the slips needed to get in soil. I'm gonna actually take this out the first warm day we have. I'm gonna take it out and plant them in the greenhouse in bigger containers. Here's my pineapple. I have 2 of these that I've been growing since last year. They're looking really good. They love having lots of light here. Up here is where I have my light. You can see, and it's just kind of hanging here. So this is the light I use, Phytomax 200. You can see there. I also have a little bit of a light here. This is my lemon. This lemon is putting out flowers. I'm so excited. This is the most flowers it's actually held on to in the past couple of years. Normally, it only puts out 1 that it holds on to. This one here. This one has been here since last year, so I'm just letting it go. It's gotten so big. Like, this lemon is huge, you guys. Oh my goodness. So, anyhow, the lemon's doing pretty well. It's just this weird little setup I've got going here, but it's working. Now let me take you to show you a little surprise. What we have here, we just got our meat birds in a few days ago. It's still too chilly to bring them outside. Now, of course, we have a heat lamp on them, but it's, like I said, it's been so rainy and cold outside. We're just gonna wait until we get the first warm day. We're gonna go down the hill and get the chicken coop ready for them because we have a huge empty chicken coop down the hill, but we haven't gone down there. It's just been rain and just really gross weather the past little while. So don't worry, these guys will get out of here in a little while. They won't be in here very long because this is a small box for them, but they love huddling up together anyway, and they're doing really well. They're putting in their feathers and they're looking really good. So these are all the meat birds, and then we also have some of the black ones. Those are the barred rocks. We're just gonna add about 4 barred rocks to our flock. We like to do that every couple of years just to keep new layers coming in, and so we don't see a huge decrease in egg production. So every couple of years, we'll add 3 or 4 new birds to the flock of laying hens. And then if you look closely, you'll probably see some ducklings in there. Now, whenever we get our meat birds, we always add a few ducklings because we like to have some duck meat as well. But also, whichever ones end up being females, we keep those. And we keep those hens and add them with the laying hens so that we can have duck eggs as well. We always keep around 3 or 4 ducks with our layers. Not too many, just 3 or 4. Right now, we only have 2. So we're gonna add probably 2 more to that flock. So meat birds, some new layers, and a few ducks. Quick update on the bananas I had. The bananas are still hanging in there. I have a little light that I have, you can see shining on them. But they're hanging in there, you know. They're not looking their greatest, but they're hanging in there, and that's all I need them to do over the winter is at least hang in there, put out some new leaves, and then in a couple of weeks they'll be going outside. Can't wait. I'll show you some of my grapevines. This is their second full year. I'm hoping we get a lot of growth on these this year. I'm eventually going to try and attach it to this pole here, work it all the way up because my greenhouse is here, and then I have another pole here that I can attach actually to this pole and kind of make it like a arched trellis. And I keep some of my containers here in the summertime, even around the side here. I have some turnips that are going to seed here. These have been in here since last year actually, so let's head into the greenhouse and show you what I've been up to the past few days, getting the greenhouse ready and some of my containers ready for planting. So what I did was I replenished all of the soil that I had in these containers for the past few years. I added some peat moss, mixed it in with the organic soil that I already had in here, and then I also added some nutrients. So I added some organic blood meal as well as some organic fertilizer, and I also added a small amount of chicken manure in here as well. And I added this about a week ago, so I watered it well. So basically it was peat moss, organic soil, blood meal, some organic fertilizer, and a little bit of chicken manure. And I was able to replenish all the soil this way and get my containers ready for planting. I am going to buy some of those cloth bags for planting in, and I'm gonna add another row right here in my greenhouse. On the other side is where I have some chairs, some seating area, some supplies, and things like that. So, and the greenhouse is so warm, I have to take my sweater off here because it's quite warm in the greenhouse actually. So, whew. All right, I'm gonna finish mixing up this soil here, and then we're gonna start planting a few things that I think we can get in the ground now because we're not due for any really cold weather. So I'm hoping we can get some things in the ground and we don't have to worry too much. Fingers crossed that the weather doesn't get too cold, but I think we'll be okay for most things, especially things like brassicas. So that's the main things you should be planting in early spring. Things like carrots and brassicas, like broccoli, cauliflower, and really cold tolerant vegetables. That's what I'm gonna do. I also have some potatoes here. I have some dill sprouted potatoes that I've had these for so long. They're on their last leg, but I'm gonna plant them anyway because there's no point wasting them all. And then I have some smaller onions that I grew last year. These were the really small ones that didn't get used up. I'm just gonna pop them in the soil here and grow them out for the summer. If they bulb up bigger, great. If they don't, doesn't matter because these were already, these were just from last year's. I'm also gonna put in a few brassicas here in one of the containers so that we can get some things going. So basically potting soil, a little bit of manure, some blood meal, and peat moss. And I just mix it in really well together. All right, so just gonna mix it well. And I've already mixed all of these containers about a week ago, so this is just the last one that I have to finish mixing here, and then I'm just gonna fill up this container with it. And I will add some more highly composted chicken manure in my containers a little bit later. But just make sure that that manure has composted down and it's more compost than manure before you add it to your containers or your soil or wherever you're planting. Okay. And you can see the peat moss is like the really light brown stuff. Keeps the soil really light and well drained. I'm just gonna fill up this container here. You can see some worms in there. Look at that one. So I know the soil is really good. So we know we've got active life in there, and that's why I don't ever throw out potting soil. I just replenish and reuse. This is a huge, giant container. This is the type of container you could grow a fruit tree in because it's really, really big, especially if you want to bring them inside. So like if you're growing something that needs to be brought in during the fall and winter, you'd use something like that because it's really big. It's nice and light, so it'll drain well. I don't have any perlite in here because the original potting soil did have some perlite, but throughout the season I'll probably add some perlite in here if I notice the soil is getting too compacted, and I can mix some perlite, more perlite in here. It does have some though, you can see. We're ready to plant, and I think I'm gonna put the potatoes in this pink one here. I think it's big enough. Maybe I'll put them in two, so maybe these two will have potatoes, but I want to keep the bigger ones for something bigger, maybe like my broccolis or cauliflower. They're gonna need a big space, so I'll put my potatoes in here. I have this one giant potato here that's sprouted. I'm gonna dig it down so that I can bury it on that side there, leaving just the very top of that exposed a little bit. And then these ones are so intertangled, I'm just gonna pull them apart and plant as many of them as I can. One at a time in there. And I'm really just gonna bury this, twist it and bury it down in there so that we don't have too much showing of the little sprouts. So I'm just gonna kind of fold it like that and put it in there, keeping this top part more exposed. I'm gonna plant more than I think I should in this container, only because these are so tiny and they're so like spent. I don't know if they're gonna do very well, so I'm gonna overcrowd it just in case they don't produce too much. Hey look, a pea pod from last year. And it has some seeds in it too. These were actually beans, I believe. Some kind of black bean or a pea that my mom gave me last year. Got two pretty good seeds in there. Alright, so I got this one in here, potatoes. And then the rest of these, I'm really just gonna kind of pry them apart. Alright, there we go. Okay, so these potatoes are done. I'm just gonna add a label on here so that I know it's my potatoes. Okay, so moving on now, we're going to plant some of the smaller onions from last year. So last year's onions, we have all of these that were pretty small, so I'm just going to plant them. I should have done this probably a couple months ago, back when it was early spring, but I just didn't have the time and the weather wasn't cooperating, and it was quite chilly. So typically we would plant our onions last fall, but I didn't do that, so I'm just gonna pop them in now and hope for the best. So I'm gonna use this smaller container here, and I'm really just popping my finger in and then sticking the onion bulb in there. Really quite simple. And I'm just leaving about 3 to 4 inches apart. Trying to get all the small ones first. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna do 6 in here. 6. Like that. And then one more. Let's see, a bunch of worms here. I'm gonna pick them up and put them in my container. Alright, just gonna stick these in. And if they're sprouting like this, even more reason to get them in because they want to grow. Okay, like that. Now don't forget to give this a good water, all of these. Anytime you plant or transplant anything, you want to make sure you give them a good drink of water. Okay, so 2 containers of onions, 2 containers of potatoes, and I have some elephant garlic here that I grew last year. They didn't get as big as I wanted them to, but I noticed that they're actually sprouting and putting out some roots, so I'm gonna plant these as well. Just gonna pop them off, and I have about 4 or 5 cloves here that I'm gonna plant. Okay, so in this container way over here, I'm gonna get some Swedish turnips and 2 types of beets, and I'm gonna plant them all in that one container. I'm only gonna grow these probably for the next like 6 weeks, 8 weeks max, and then I can plant something else that will be a fast growing herb or something else in here. But these will just be like a spring, early summer crop, and then I'll get them out of here and we can have something else here for late summer to early fall. So on one side, I'm gonna pour in a bunch of turnip seeds. Down the middle, we're gonna go with the Chioggia Guards Mark beet. This is the one with the stripes. One of my favorite ones to grow. Right down the center. And some of these I'm actually going to let go to seed as well, especially the Chioggia Guards Mark. I definitely want to let it go to seed because I need to collect more seeds from these beets, and I like to collect my own seeds, so I'm gonna let a few of these beets actually go to seed. And then I also have my bull's blood beet here, and I'm gonna plant that down one side. I'm gonna try to keep everything. Look at how these beet seeds look. The Guards Mark beet looks like that, and the seeds are really quite cool. They look very different than other seeds. And I'm just gonna plant them down one side as well. Okay. That's it really. And then I also have some other brassicas growing in the house. They're just not quite big enough to bring out yet, and it's still quite cold for peppers and cucumbers, tomatoes, all that. So those aren't ready yet till the end of May. But for now, that's pretty much it, you guys. I think we did quite a bit in a short period of time. I do have to fill this one up still with my potting soil mix, which I told you guys is basically just organic potting soil and blood meal, composted chicken manure, and peat moss, and that's pretty much how I make this mix. And it's quite a simple mix to make, and you can basically top it off with any other nutrients that you want, so organic fertilizers and things like that. So that's pretty much how you replenish old potting soil. You don't need to throw it out. You just have to add some nutrients and nutrient-dense ingredients back in there. You can also add any other manure or compost that you can find, mix it in here as well, because the compost is really going to add some nutrients and life back into the soil. All right, so I'm just going to get my hose water these guys really well, and I'll be counting down the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're just in the first week of May. We don't plant till the very last week of May here outside. That's our last frost date. So we're just waiting for 2 to 3 weeks. I'm gonna start my cucumbers, watermelon, and pumpkins next, as well as just some other small little things that I think would be fun to grow, maybe some herbs. But for now, that's pretty much all I'm gonna do. Also going to arrange exactly how I want my garden to be this year, because I'm not sure if I want to do raised beds or if I want to use those bags, those grow bags. I've been seeing those on sale, and I think I want to invest in some of those grow bags because they're easy to move around and they're easy to fill and just keep wherever it's convenient, and they don't take up too much room. So I'm thinking that would be a great thing to add to my container gardening, because I love gardening in my containers every year. It's just easy to control. I can move them around. If they're not doing well in one location, I can pick them up, move them somewhere else, and I just really love having that flexibility. So I'm probably going to buy some of those grow bags, and I'm going to make a pretty big garden with those. That's what I'm thinking. I might build a raised bed as well, but I haven't narrowed down exactly how I want to go about it this year, but those are my plans. Let me know what you guys think. What's your best way to grow your vegetables? Is it in-ground, containers, grow bags, raised beds? What have you found to be the most successful way? I have a really good time growing and really good success in my containers. When I grew my onions, actually, because my containers are right here and I move them where they're gonna be not hard to get to. So I always keep them closer to the greenhouse and to the house where I know I'll be able to water them and fertilize them frequently. I was able to get more onions out of my containers rather than the in-ground garden, only because sometimes you let the in-ground garden go by the end of the season, and then before you know it, you've got all these weeds and you haven't been watering and fertilizing enough. So I find it's just a lot easier to focus on the containers because I can just keep them in a more convenient location. So let me know what you guys think. Do you like in-ground containers, raised beds? What's your preferred way to grow your veggies? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys back here for round 3 or 4 of this year's gardening season. I'm so excited that I can actually be out here and not be freezing to death. Now it's not completely warm, but it's warm enough to be comfortable outside and at least be comfortable in the greenhouse. So I'm super excited. Summer is my season, so I'm just really stoked. Alright guys, well, let me know what you're planting in your garden this year as well. I would love to know. And if you have any exotics that you plant, where are you also? I have people from all over the world, from Australia, from the US, from the UK, from Canada, commenting, and I'd love to know where you are. Let me know, leave it in the description box below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Alright, stay peaceful.